You get the half news today. Half news. Welcome back, everyone. I know it's been, what, 2 weeks? I know I missed 2 weeks of the news, and we have an echo. We have an echo. All right. There we go. Good to be back. It's good to be back. Welcome to the news. I take my lunch hour to bring you guys the news. We're going to talk about what's going on in the tech world. We can actually talk in full screen for just a little bit, but we're going to jump into the news. We got a lot to talk about. I picked the biggest topics of the last 2 or 3 weeks to talk about, and we'll start with those. And we'll go on. There's some things that we're going to cover tomorrow because I want to cover them more in depth, but we'll just start here. Let's jump into it. All right. So first off, Voyager 1 team accomplishes a tricky thruster swap. I know that everyone in the software engineering world cares about Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and I keep you all updated because I know this is top of your mind. Top of your mind. Sorry, my alarms are not turned off for some reason. There we go. So there was a thruster swap. What happens? This has actually happened several times. So it has 3 sets of thrusters because when it was orbiting planets, it would use those thrusters for navigation around the planets as it would take pictures. But as it entered deeper space, it's not changing direction or anything like that. So they don't actually use those thrusters for anything else. So what has happened is the rubber that was used inside of these thrusters actually decomposes into I think a silicone oxide. I want to say like it oxidizes. Let's just put it this way. And it kind of clogs up the thruster. And what has happened is they switched thrusters because now they have spare thrusters. And they performed yet another thruster swap. Back to one of the original ones that they had swapped from because it wasn't actually that clogged when they first swapped off of it, and the ones that are currently on. But this is kind of signaling the death of Voyager 1. These thrusters are used about 40 times per day to keep the antenna pointed towards Earth. So as soon as this doesn't work, we lose contact with Voyager 1. And it's already going to a set of faulty thrusters. They're just less faulty than the ones that we're doing. Another thing that is happening is basically the electricity that is powering Voyager 1 is basically off of the decaying, it's not plutonium. I forget what it is. Anyways, it's something that's decaying. But as we all know, decaying things get weaker over time. So its power source is also dying. We need a Voyager 3. That's actually what I'm calling for. One that's made to last 200 years. This one was designed for, I think it was 5 years. And it's now 47 years. Let's design it for 100 years and fling it out there as fast as we can. Let's move on. Here to learn? Okay, well, today is the news. We're just covering software engineering news. The Voyager is half a meme, half I follow it. I know it's not really software engineering, but I think it's good for humanity that we're exploring space. On this topic, the Internet Archive lost its appeal to the copyright claim for its books. This was something we talked about a little while ago where it had lost, but it did appeal that, and it lost again. And so this was where during the pandemic, they scanned a bajillion books, and then instead of letting, let's say they have one book and loaning it to one person, they basically let unlimited people borrow it. And this got them a little bit in trouble. Now, I generally like what the Internet Archive tries to do and the general things, but this seems like a pretty good loss in my opinion. So anyways, that should spell the end of this, as their appeal was lost. So yeah, that was just our entry. Let's talk about security. There was only two big things in security that I saw. So the MCMC defends its DNS redirection policy. Basically, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission basically wants to force you to use their DNS, because as a country, they block certain things that they don't like or want you to see via DNS. Now, generally, I would say that use encrypted DNS. This is a perfect time to set up encrypted DNS. That's what my entire house uses. Actually, my router redirects all DNS to use my encrypted DNS. So if you're a device on my network, you use encrypted DNS. You don't have a device on my network, but I have a device on my network, and it uses encrypted DNS. This has a lot of security implications. And so anyways, it has defended it because it came under scrutiny for it, and it seems like it's going to keep it. The last thing is, I did bring a special news segment on this, but I wanted to bring it up again. The YubiKeys are vulnerable to cloning attacks thanks to this side channel attack. I did kind of talk in depth on that side channel attack. If you guys would like to go further into the techniques leveraged in that, we can do that. Just let me know in the comments. Now, what I wanted to point out here is my stance right now is this. One, it requires physical access to your YubiKeys. So if your YubiKeys are secure on your persons, you don't actually have to worry that somebody's cloned them. They do need to access them for a period of time. That being said, the cloning is not that difficult. Now, if you got your YubiKeys in May or later, those are not vulnerable to it. And all new YubiKeys I have confirmed with Yubi are not vulnerable. So they have a new firmware. You can't update the firmware on these. So my recommendation is keep your YubiKeys safe, like physical access safe. And I would then get a new pair by the end of the year if you can. I know they're kind of expensive, and I say pair because I go with pair. I always have a backup one. But if you have access to any sensitive things and don't think that you do, it's really good to have some good stuff there. That was a weird it was a weird sentence. I haven't had enough coffee. This is actually my first cup today, and it's noon. It's lunch. All right. Let's jump into something that I found quite interesting. Now, I have for the last year been saying that the advanced statistical analysis that we currently call machine learning and artificial intelligence would be really good for something like security. And I get proven right over and over again. It's like these companies listen to my streams and steal my ideas. That's not what's happening here. But I'm not accusing anybody of stealing my ideas. I put them out there freely. It's not stealing. But protecting APIs from abuse using sequence learning and variable order Markov chains. If you don't know what Markov chains are, I'm going to put this down as a little bit of a learning thing for you all. Markov chains are really interesting, and they're basically chaining events, basically saying the state that I'm in right now affects the states I can go into. And the states I go into affect the states that, or were affected by the states we were previously in, and will affect the states that are available to me previous to that. So generally, when we're talking about Markov chains, you're talking about some sort of time series. That's usually what's related to. You can, in some abstract math, talk about something other than time series, but that's generally what's talking about. And that is what's talking about here. And the really cool thing is they use Markov chains along with artificial intelligence to basically detect anomalous behavior. So it's a really cool read up. I don't have the time to sit here and read the whole thing with you all. I think you should, though. And again, join the Discord. You can do !Discord if you want to join the Discord. And if you want one of these like covered in depth and you want like that type of video, I will do it. You just have to let me know in the live channel, the live stream channel. Just say, hey, I'd like an in-depth review of this article, and we'll do it. All right. Now, I know what you're all thinking. What we need is an AI that we can train on a specific game and then recreate that specific game on the fly. That's what you're asking for. I see it in your eyes. And that's what is happening here. Now, I think that the news headlines are very wrong in how they portray this. And this is why I want to cover it, is because they talk about generative AI creates playable version of Doom with no code. And if you actually get into what this happened, is they actually trained 2 AI models. They actually trained 2 predictive models, and one was how to play Doom. And it effectively predicted the best way to play Doom. And the other one, just by playing Doom over and over and over and over again, and the other one was trained on that to predict the next frame of Doom. So this AI, if you go through and read this, I will link it to you like I always do. This AI cannot just create a game you can't say, generate me a game like Flappy Birds. It doesn't do that. It was made. Now, the interesting thing here, and something that I think is really cool that people aren't talking about, is that it generates the frames on demand. So this AI actually does 20 frames per minute. Now, this is not like good. This is like 800 by 600 resolution. It's a terrible resolution, and it struggles to do 20 frames with some pretty beefy GPUs backing it. So even then, it's minorly impressive. I do think that the math prediction of the next frame to render of a game is interesting. I'm not sure of its usefulness, I'm not sure of its usefulness. I think that this was a very interesting like proof of concept. We proved we could do something. And I think that the real applications of this will be in something different. That would be my guess. All right, let's jump over to, did anybody else see anything about this? Did anybody read this paper? I didn't get to read the entire paper. It's a little bit long. I skimmed over it, but I haven't gotten to go through the whole thing. Like I said, if you guys want a deep dive into some of these, you know what to do. Let's talk about engineering. I have a question to ask you guys. Do you ever think, man, if mono repos just sucked less? Have you ever thought, I wish that Git just supported mono repos better? Well, the real answer is when you abuse a tool, you have to make other tools because you abuse a tool. And if you're creating thousands or 200,000 projects in a mono repo, that's probably abusing a tool. Git has worked just fine for the Linux kernel without ever needing a special tool. And the reason is Linux kernel doesn't abuse it. But if you're so tempted to abuse your Git repository like TikTok has, well, TikTok has released something for you. Faster Git for front-end mono repos include introducing a Sparrow. So Sparrow is a layer on top of Git so that you don't have to use Git properly. You can abuse it. And that's what it does. You know, it saves them quite a bit of time, although this is still painfully slow. 2 minutes to clone your 30 seconds to check out your team's branch with just your team's stuff, like just your projects, this is still painfully slow. And the problem is, this is a Band-Aid. Because if you all know Git properly, it stores all the history. And that's the problem with these things, is when you create a bunch of things with a bunch of history, it gets very complicated. Not only that, your merge history is just a absolute disaster and mess because you have completely separate things merging in the same thing. I absolutely disdain it for that reason alone. But Maricon is GitHub's special tool. No, I just they're not the first people to do this. Google also has a thing to manage mono repos, and everybody keeps building a special tool when the thing is, you can even do mono repos. What if you do a mono repo per project or per team or per... There's ways to do it where you don't have thousands of projects in one repo. And it doesn't have to get so rough. But people just refuse. They're like, no. The only thing we'll do is use one repo for all of TikTok. That's it. I'm just saying we have options. All right. But if you guys like it, it is a tool that's out there. You might want to give it a check. The cool part about it is it's all just built on top of Git. If you actually go in and read, it actually is just leveraging Git commands in the backend. It's not doing anything special. It's all things you could do if you actually learned Git in the first place and actually learned how to do a sparse checkout and a partial clone. It's not actually doing anything special on top of that. So you can use this with any Git provider, whether it be GitHub, whether it be Bitbucket, whether it be self-hosted. It should work because it's just using Git in the backend, which is, I think that's a positive. I'll give it a positive. All right, let's move on. Nighthound, I too fail to see how such a large monorepo is helpful. I can do a bit on it. I can do a little bite for you all if you don't understand the problems that you get, because there's more problems than this that you get. But yeah. Now, let's move on to quite possibly the biggest release of Cassandra coming to a Cassandra cluster near you. Cassandra 5 is coming out soon. And I actually mean this is a huge release of Cassandra. Very, very big. There is a storage attached indexes. I'm going to give you guys this because this is a great learning opportunity for you. There are these things called storage attached indexes. If you watch this video about it, it's actually very educational. I didn't actually know what storage attached indexes were previously. This is something that's kind of related to the SS tables. Cassandra and Bigtable are the big databases that use SS tables, and storage attached indexes is something they're starting to leverage. Well, I don't know about Bigtable, but Cassandra. Now, I would encourage you to watch. It's a little boring because it's like a community meeting where they talk about it, but it's still good. It's still really, really good. Now, there's some other things coming to Cassandra. There's the try min tables and the try SS tables, which are cool and should provide optimization for both your memory and your storage structure. And really, actually, these two things combined, do you know what this will mean for you? This is actually something that I have complained about, is where you need hundreds of Cassandra nodes when another database you could use 9. This will mean you need fewer nodes. Both of these things combined will mean you need fewer nodes, saving you on infrastructure. And a lot of the times when you're talking about these nodes, they're big, beefy nodes that are expensive. That we're talking about $20, $30, $100,000 a month in infrastructure costs. So this alone makes this one of the Cassandra's biggest releases. There is a unified compaction. I don't know. I didn't dig into this. I'm guessing that there was different compaction strategies depending on different things. So they just made one to rule them all, which sounds good. I don't know how it affects it. Maybe the bigger thing is for all of you getting into a vector, if you're already running Cassandra, I love it when you can put vector on a database that you're already using because you get a multi-model. You get Cassandra where you're storing your stuff and you can store your vector stuff in it. It's actually pretty cool because then you don't have to have multiple databases, which is a pain. All right. And also sometimes that data can correlate, which is really cool. And I have a demonstration on this topic that I just need to do. Remind me to talk to Art about that. All right. If you guys wanted to know, OpenZT is an interesting project, and I'm letting you all know. Open source networking for your application. Now, the thing about OpenZT is it's almost a thing you build your app on, not like a library. It's almost like Kubernetes. It's not like Kubernetes at all. But basically, it's a cool premise. I don't know if it will take off, but I wanted to show you guys what it was and talk about it. If anybody from OpenZT wants to actually do a stream with me, I would love to do a stream with you and actually demo it better. I just looked around at it and read about it, but OpenZT is basically and this was the best article that I found on it. You can actually read they made a release statement. I thought this was a little bit better about it, but their GitHub is also linked on here. What OpenZT tries to do is basically make it so that every client in your application uses MTLS. That's mutual TLS, where both the server and the client have a TLS certificate and can authenticate to each other. It also tries to enforce that only applications that are supposed to talk to each other can talk to each other. So this is where it's more of a thing that you build your application on top of instead of a thing that you leverage or that's like a library. Now, that's being said, like I said, if you guys know somebody from OpenZT, I actually did reach out to them. I think I got the email of one of the main contributors and I emailed them. Hopefully they don't think I'm spam. And I asked them if they would give us a demonstration on a stream and talk about it more. It's an interesting concept. Again, I don't know the full things. I almost think managing, it almost sounds like a portion of what Istio does in Kubernetes, but without Kubernetes requirement. Now, talking about MTLS, managing TLS is a super pain, right? Well, there's another company that's trying to make managing TLS a little bit better, a little bit easier on all of us. And this has been Cloudflare. Cloudflare has done a lot of steps doing the automatic TLS. Now, while the null cloud is down, you can't actually go to the nullcloud.io, but let's actually go to the nullcloud.io and check this out. Nullcloud.io. Watch what we're given. Well, that was anticlimactic. Watch what we're getting. Just give it some time. It's thinking. It's thinking. Let it cook. Let it cook. While we're doing that, let's talk about what they've done and their final steps. Now, if you're a Cloudflare customer, you need to understand that these are changes coming out, and you have to opt out if you don't want to be in them. Basically, they have this thing that tries to talk to your servers and recommends, actually, cool thing, it does gets on your server, and it checks if the HTTP is the same get result as the HTTPS, and it tries to make configuration recommendations based off of that. Now, what they've done is basically made it where they can automatically configure the most secure, safest one on both sides. What I was trying to show you, which should happen right now, is this. Now, if you go through their things, there's all these, and I run on strict SS only origin. And what this means is that the browser connects to Ashburn, Cloudflare, and it has a TLS connection here. but it also requires an MTLS between the nullcloud.io host that I own and the Cloudflare itself. And this is what it's saying here, is that this cannot be verified because the server's down. The server's not there. That's why. But this is actually what you're seeing. And this is automatically going to be turned on for you if you want it or not. And so this is what you need to be aware of. If you're going on it, you have a month to opt out, and you have a month to opt out. Gregory, I so apologize. I didn't see your comments. I should have paused. Let's go back. Hey, Merrick. So OpenZD should be able to solve workload identity problems. That, yes, in theory it should. Like I said, I haven't used it, but this is why it's so interesting to me. It's also Apache 2. We have some big open source news coming out, but a little bit later. But absolutely, Gregory. Also, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. But Gregory, that is my understanding as well. It should hopefully solve your application workload and basically almost RBAC of services, service to service communication in theory. That's kind of what it's solving. And that service identification problem. Again, I would love for somebody in OpenZD to give us a demo. Because yeah, that would be amazing. Monta, how are you? All right, let's keep moving. I honestly don't have more to add to that, Gregory. I apologize. I only came aware of this, a week and a half ago, but I've been moving, so I have not had the time to dig further into it. Again, join the Discord, and if there's something you really want us to dig more into and people want to vote for it, let me know, and we'll dig into it. The next thing is Rust 181 is coming out, and one of the biggest things is that the Rust error trait is basically stabilized. The big thing is it's stabilizing the error trait, which means it's going to be able to be used outside of the standard library. So if you're doing no STD, you're going to be able to use the error trait. This is huge for things that are like embedded devices. This is actually huge. There were some other little things about ordering in a ordering algorithm. But I think this was probably the biggest thing, is getting that the stabilization of the error trait out there. That was my general engineering news. I know that was a little all over the place, but that was all of the general stuff. I know I have like 3 weeks of news to cover, and I still have the same hour and 15-minute lunch break that I always do. So yeah. It is what it is. So let's talk about some AI drama. Some AI. Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. Please no, please no. All right. So I said a while ago that OpenAI was burning through money, and they would have to raise money again if they wanted to. If they were going to, like, there was going to come a time where they were going to have to close up shop or raise money. And that amount of money was going to have to be an astronomical figure. And if people had listened to me a year ago, I don't remember exactly when I said it, this would come as no surprise. OpenAI fundraising set to vault start valuation up to $150 billion, raising $6.5 billion in equity financing. That is a lot. This is surpassing, I believe, the Uber hype. That's pretty out there. Now, as maybe a cheerleader of this, to prove its value, you see companies like Mark Benioff. I have no idea how to pronounce. We know Salesforce, the CEO of Salesforce. Let's just do that because I don't know how to pronounce. I'm just going to call him Mark. We're close friends. Mark has declared a hard pivot to autonomous AI agents. It will be enough for Salesforce to thrive in the generative AI era. Now, Mark has been a proponent of like, I don't know his words exactly, but I'm going to say baby thinking, which basically says you always have to be able to have a fresh start, fresh look, and think like a child at the topic and always be ready to hard pivot. And it seems like Mark is ready to put his actions where his mouth are. Now, we're going to have to watch and see how this is. Now, the interesting thing and why I put this as drama is I don't know if it has to do with this statement here. Klarna cuts 50% of workforce, ends partnerships with Salesforce and Workday amid generative AI overhaul. Now, we run the AI games here on the Null channel, and just in a few weeks, we're going to be running the fall games again. It's going to be a fantastic 3-day event that we do quite a bit of AI stuff, testing them, seeing how well they actually work. And I've been putting a lot of work into what tools we're going to be testing, how we're going to test them, and that type of stuff. That being said, and you should join those streams. But that being said, Klarna claims that not only does it not need Salesforce and Workday, it can cut 50% of its workforce and recreate Salesforce and Workday using generative AI with half the workforce. This is, call me skeptical. And I don't know if this is part of what's causing Mark to think about this hard pivot. Now, when I say hard pivot, let's be honest. It's not truly what you think of as a hard pivot because it's still Salesforce. But what they're trying to do with this new AI that they're talking about is make it where these AI agents can actually take actions for you. Right now, they have an AI chatbot, which is all good and fun. But they actually want to make these things that can take actions for you on your behalf. So you basically can program these agents to do things when events happen on top of the Salesforce platform. So it's still Salesforce plus. So I don't think it's necessarily as hard pivot as they claim because it's still the Salesforce platform that these agents are going to be working inside of. So we'll see how that works. I'm also going to be following Klarna. It's going to be hard for me to see hiring practices. Do they hire a lot of people back or those things? But if there are news articles on it, I'm going to bring those up if somebody else can find them. Because call me skeptical. I don't see, like, if Klarna said, we plan to, in 5 years, need 50% less of the workforce and not have Workday and Salesforce, or maybe 10 years, that would make more sense. But they did it all today. Brave is what we're going to call Klarna. Absolutely. Jano, bold move. That is bold move. That's how you say it. It's a bold move. I brought this because I said AI drama. Really, AI wasn't any part of the illegal aspect of it. That the AI part is non-consequential, but AI gets put in almost everything that it can be put into because that is how the media works. And I try to point these things out to you guys because I try not to do that. So basically what happened was there was this musician that used AI to make a bunch of garbage music. Nobody listened to it. But the federal charges comes into he made a bunch of bots to play. He basically, I'm going to make this simplified, got a bunch of computers like DigitalOcean droplets to play the music on Spotify and earn him royalties. And I don't know exactly how he did it, but that is actually fraud. And that was the big thing. He was generating $100,000 a month on royalties on this garbage AI generated music that nobody else was listening to. Now, the interesting thing is, I could not find the AI that they used, but the announcement, it did not what method they used to generate the songs, but it did say that he was working with the AI creators. Which AI though isn't listed yet, so I'm interested to see that. All right. Continuing on the AI drama, I'm sorry, there was just a lot this last few weeks. Microsoft's recall feature cannot be uninstalled after all. If this is the case, this is the death of Windows. I have been obviously I use Linux. I have been a staunch defender of if you want to use Windows, it's fine. And it's honestly was in my case better than Mac OS. At this point, I would use Mac OS. Operating system I despise. It's 2024 and we can't even freaking snap Windows. I think they're adding it to the 2025 release. Thank freaking goodness that we can snap Windows on a 5K monitor. Oh my gosh. I have been a staunch defender of Windows, and at this point, I have to renounce that. No one should use Windows. If you cannot uninstall, if you cannot disable, recall. And they still claim that it will be off by default. I don't buy that. Originally, it wasn't going to be, but it's literally baked into the operating system, cannot be turned off. It used to be that you could go into the Windows feature and turn it off, but that will be fixed in an upcoming update. So it's always on. It's just whether it's enabled or not. Nope. I'm out. I'm solidly out. I don't know why this was in the AI drama, but it's definitely drama. Now, there's been a lot around VMware, and I told you guys that I would keep you updated, and I've seen things like this. Now, I'm actually surprised OpenStack is the solution. OpenStack is notoriously difficult to manage, upkeep, and maintain. And we've seen VMware basically destroy its customer base. This is not the first one that we've seen going to OpenStack, and it's probably not the last either. All right. All right, let's talk about the open source comeback. Now, I'm going to say some positive things. And then we're going to also talk about what needs to be done further ahead, further on the line. Elasticsearch is open source again. Now, this is not a true statement. This is not a true statement because if you go and read their licensing, this is under a dual license under the SSPL v1 and the Elastic license 2 or... So, this is not true. It will be, if you read, in the coming weeks. So it's not open source yet. So don't go reading the code because it's source available code. And I have big problems with reading source available code. Just don't do it. There's a whole list of problems with reading source available code. Now, they're going to go to an AGPL thing, but one of the problems that I have with this is it's still going to be, it's not switching to the AGPL. It's going to be triple license. Instead of a dual licensed, like it is now, a dual license, it's going to be triple licensed. And the problem with these is triple licenses are hard for enterprises to wrap their heads around. Triple licenses are notoriously fraught with misunderstanding of which license you can operate under and which ones that you get. So I'm going to hopefully expect and see that they have made it very clear as when you can be licensed under the AGPL. Although it won't be strictly open source, like, again, because I'm assuming it's going to be something like if you're over 10 million, you have to be under the SSPL. But if you don't, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, Space Time. It's good to see you. Wait. Hey, Space Time, you raided. I'm sorry. We're doing the news right now. We're covering news that's happening. Thanks for the raid, Space Time. How was your stream? Was it good? We still have to do that co-op stream. 100%. We need to do that. All right. So this is open source at Elastic. We'll see how it plans out. Elastic, I would do two things. One, don't say you're open source again until you're actually open source. Make the license change first. Make it the same day. Don't say we'll do it in a couple of weeks. The second thing is I am expecting this to be clear and easy to use and understand. Not a whole lot of a triple license seems scary to me, but it's a win for open source. Elasticsearch and Kibana are coming back, and I think it's a positive thing altogether. And I want to give them kudos. It's a positive thing. We gotta wait and see. Git Butler is joining the open source pledge, and this is pretty cool. So if you don't know what the open source pledge is, basically the guidelines of the pledge are to donate $2,000 per full-time developer that you employ to open source projects. So if you employ 5 developers, that means every year you would give $10,000 to open source projects that you're actively leveraging. And I think that this is a great pledge for companies to take to actually support those things. So they have 4 full-time developers and donated $6K to this project and the Svelte project, the biggest projects they use. This is awesome. And I think that I would like to see more companies doing this. So good job, Git Butler. I don't know what Git Butler does. What does Git Butler do? A Git client for simultaneous branches on top of your existing workflows. I still don't know what Git Butler does. Okay. Well, cool. Yak is now open source. It's a desktop API client for organizing and executing REST, Graph, and gRPC requests. It's built using Tari, Rust, and React.js. This is pretty cool. I'm going to have to give it a try. I've used Postman, and this looks cool. It looks cool. It's now open source. And the interesting thing, I'm going to post this for you all, is that the creator of Yak actually went through I'm not going to do open source, and then changed their mind after hate speech. No, I'm just joking. They got some they got some pretty rough comments on it, but they basically what they wanted was open source but closed contribution, which I understand. Taking contributions is kind of difficult, and if you're a small creator and don't really want to do that and just have a path you want to go, I think it's fine. SQLite is a dominant one in this, and it's not everyone. It makes some people angry because the community also has ideas where it can go, and in the end, they just have to fork it. But It's also a lot of work to accept requests and pull requests and those types of things as well. And so I can understand why they might not want to. So that's good for them. Good for them. All right. Did anybody else see anything else? I have a few other random things that are out there that we can talk about before I say goodbye. These were things that didn't really fit too well. But some stuff we're going to have to test. I guess this actually fit in. I guess we didn't have an artificial intelligence thing. We just had the drama, and there was a lot of it. So I didn't really have a good open source or thing. So, anyways, let's cover these things, and then we can call it good. We're actually ending on time, which is fantastic. Sorry, I rushed a bit. Sorry, space time. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do a shout out to space time. If you guys don't know what space time is, Spacetime DB is a database that basically puts your application logic in the database. It's an interesting concept, and we're gonna do a stream together at some point, and it will be fun. All right. So one of our stretch goals for the AI games is going to be this: if I get access to it. Tell Replit AI's agent your app idea, and it will code and deploy it for you. So if I can get access to this, this is going to be one of the stretch goals where we actually, the stretch goals are going to happen on the next weekend. On the following weekend. So we'll have the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we'll move on if we reach our stretch goals, which I will publicize. If we reach our stretch goals, we're going to have another weekend, just 2 days. And one of those things would be testing something like if Replit's AI can take your app idea, code it, and deploy it for you. We're going to try that. We're going to try a simple application and see how it works. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about it because the other stretch goal one was basically AWS, who makes the same claim. They have a new coding thing that basically says it will, without any code, create an enterprise-ready application. Obviously in AWS. And those are kind of our big stretch goals. We have some smaller stretch goals too that should be easier to hit. I have tier 1 stretch goals and tier 2 stretch goals, depending on how much they cost me. All right. Google now uses AI to moderate staff meetings, and employees say it asks softball questions. So basically, if you go in and read about this, Google has this AI that basically asks questions about how did the CEO do in this talk and things like that. But it follows a script and asks really, really easy questions like that give very little room to be critical, which I found hilarious. Whether this was intentional or not, it's hilarious. Moving on, open source AI code editor for 10x engineer, Melty. Now, I know a lot of you guys know about Cursor already. I announced it at least once. Melty is the open source variant of that. Now, I have requested access. I don't know if I will get access because every single screenshot that I can see is in Crapple. Every single one. So I don't know yet if it will support it should though, because it's just it did what Cursor did, and it forked Visual Studio Code, right? So I mean, like it's just a fork of Visual Studio Code. You can tell that by here. So it should run. It should run on Linux. So anyways, I asked for early access. You have to request it. If I get it, that will be part of the AI games as well. Well, we're checking for doomsday scenarios. Both Anthropic and OpenAI. Yeah, Anthropic and OpenAI have said that they will work with NIST to ensure there's no doomsday devices in the AI models. Now, I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. I'm not sure how they check for doomsday devices in OpenAI. I would love to talk to a person about how exactly you check for doomsday devices in a machine learning model, a statistical analysis model. I would find that very interesting. But it is happening, so you can rest assured, rest easy. There are proven no doomsday devices in our AI models. Now, an AI editor, an editor we've been using recently on stream is Zeditor. And in a big announcement, they released ZAI. Now, this is something I already have access to, where basically in Zed, we can now talk to it about our files. We can include multiple files in this context here. And wait, can I drag and drop? No, I can't. There's a command. We're gonna have to learn the commands. Oh, that's very weird. Anyways, we're gonna have to learn to use it, but it is what we're going to try to do. It's ZAI. We're going to see. I think that this is how they plan to monetize it, actually, is basically sell the ZAI access as like a subscription instead of the editor. It's an interesting monetization of that. So we're going to see, file, insert file contents to a specific file or tree of files. Yeah. So supposedly it does really, really well. And we're going to test it like we do everything. We're going to test it. What was this? Oh, this is actually pretty cool. Twitter's algorithm is now open source. But the cool thing is they actually went through, if you've ever wondered how one of these works, you can go check out the code. But maybe a more useful thing is this diagram right here. This is probably the most useful bit I got from it. Now, obviously, the code is there, so you can obviously go check out the code yourself, and I'm sure that there's interesting things in the code that you can learn and discover. I'm not saying that there's not. I'm saying this is actually a really cool way of visualizing it and understanding the large thing. Now, I would have to say there was nothing that surprised me here. You know, first you have your data, and like this is actually pretty straightforward. The tweets you engage with, the people that you follow, and the data that they have, like your user data. Where do you live? What activities interest you? What are your interests, etc. That's pretty simple. That's not actually even that complicated. And then they have features like trust and safety. I'm surprised that one's on there. I'm not sure if Twitter has a trust and safety, but they have features that probably further limit and sort these things. And then they have the mixer that does some of the magic, and that goes and is explained in here pretty well, actually. So yeah, it's a fantastic read. It's a fantastic read. I actually really liked it. And then you can view the code here. Was it? I had the code. Yeah. It's called The Algorithm. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, the one thing with this is it's not being kept up to date. So obviously, it's changed since it was uploaded. You know, these things don't sit. They don't sit stagnant. So it's like a snapshot. They're not developing on GitHub. They're not developing here. It's in Scala too. Anyways, so it's interesting. It's a good way to learn. It's a good way to learn. All right. That was it. I've got to go. My hour is up. It's back to work we go. Or at least I go. It's back to work I go. Thanks everyone for joining me. Sorry that was a very rapid. Oh my goodness. I missed an anonymous gifted sub. And a follow. You know, I am actually very bad at alerts when I'm doing the news. I don't have the headphones on. I don't get the alerts. I'm actively thinking about the content, so I apologize because I'm trying to get through the things that have happened this week. So I apologize for missing those alerts. Maybe I'll wear my headphones just for the alert messages. Maybe that would be a goodity for sure. Okay, anyways, thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys tomorrow for my Saturday stream. We're going to finish up, hopefully, our lockless file writing, at least the first intro to it. And then we've got to work on the AI games. We have a lot of preparation to do with it. I'm not going to be able to do it all off stream like I had hoped for. So there's going to be a few spoilers in it, but it should be fun. We have some fun stuff to walk through and think through. And I look forward to seeing you all there. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I will talk to you